Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now the price of Bitcoin is attempting to break through this key level of resistance, while the price of ETH is currently testing key resistance. And while this is happening, today is also inflation day, which means new CPI inflation numbers will be released today, which I'll talk more about in just a moment, so definitely stick around. First of all, talking about the new CPI inflation numbers that will be released today. And in fact, by the time you're watching this video, these numbers will probably already be released. And depending on what these numbers are, they will likely affect markets quite heavily. Now, first of all, what markets are currently expecting these new inflation numbers to come in at? First of all, consensus is expecting inflation to come in at 7.3% year over year. And the trading economics forecast is expecting inflation to come in at 7.6% year over year with the new CPI numbers. So obviously that's quite a spread between those numbers. We don't normally have a large target range like that. It's normally much smaller, which means when the new CPI inflation numbers get released, if they come out in between around 7.3% to 7.6%, then we will likely see some small volatility in the short term, but it's unlikely we will see a massive move visible on the daily or weekly time frame, for example. And in terms of bullish versus bearish, basically the lower inflation comes in at, the more bullish that is, and the higher inflation comes in at, the more bearish that is. And it's especially bearish if inflation comes in above expectations. So if the new CPI inflation numbers are above 7.6% year over year, then that will be bad for markets, at least in the short term. But on the flip side, if inflation comes in below 7.3%, then that will be good for markets. That will be bullish for markets, at least in the short term. And once again, the lower inflation goes. So if we see anything below 7%, for example, that will be very bullish for markets. But if we end up seeing anything closer towards 8%, then that will be very bearish for markets. And the more neutral range is basically between around 7.3% to 7.6%, but the majority are currently expecting 7.3% based on consensus once again. So essentially, the closer we are to 7.3%, the lower the volatility we should be expecting, at least in the shorter term. And the reason why these inflation numbers are really important for markets is because, of course, we've had a massive inflation problem over the last nearly 2 years now, and this inflation problem is really the main reason as to why central banks around the world, specifically the Federal Reserve, for example, are raising interest rates, which are bad for markets. That is why if inflation comes in higher than expected, that is bad for markets, because in that case, that would suggest that the Federal Reserve would need to raise rates even higher. But if inflation comes in lower than expected and starts dropping quite quickly, then that gives a signal to the Federal Reserve that they've already done a lot of work on interest rates, and perhaps they don't need to raise rates for much longer. And in fact, just tomorrow we have another FOMC meeting, also known as a Fed meeting, where we will see another interest rate hike, either a 50 basis point hike, which is 0.5%, or a 75 basis point hike, which is 0.75%. And as of right now, before the new inflation numbers have been released, there's around a 70% chance approximately of a 50 basis point hike tomorrow, and around a 30% chance approximately of a 75 basis point hike tomorrow. And of course, I'll keep you updated on all of this. I will actually post a real-time tweet over on my Twitter as soon as the inflation numbers get released. So if you are not following me on Twitter, make sure you're doing that. Link down below in the description and in the pinned comment. And of course, tomorrow I'll give you another video update just before tomorrow's Federal Reserve meeting. So make sure you're subscribed to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss that. But anyway, now getting into the Bitcoin part of this video. This right here is the daily Bitcoin to US dollar chart. And as of right now, the price of Bitcoin is still in this pause from the larger bearish trend, which means we are essentially no longer playing out this bearish trend, at least for now. because the daily Bitcoin RSI is still holding above this ascending line of support, which generally means we are due to see at least some sort of relief from the bearish trend, which is exactly what we have been seeing ever since this RSI uptrend has formed. But anyway, zooming into the shorter term, this right here is the 4-hour Bitcoin to US dollar chart, and over the last one day, we have finally seen a breakout in the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI above this descending line of resistance. So of course, this technically speaking is a short-term bullish signal, but in terms of the momentum right now, at least in the short term here in the 4-hour Bitcoin MACD, there's still relatively low momentum to either direction, because if you're looking at the histogram within the MACD indicator, this has basically been chopping around sideways in between bullish and bearish constantly over the last week to 2 weeks. But what is now happening that hasn't actually happened over the last 1 to 2 weeks is a potential breakout above this key level of resistance, which is really a range of resistance coming into play in between around 17.3k going up towards around 17.4k. And once again, this has been resistance for the price of Bitcoin over the last 1 to 2 weeks, while the price has basically been chopping around sideways in between that resistance and also this support sitting at approximately 16.7 to 16.8k. And as of right now, at least at the time of recording this video, the price of Bitcoin has confirmed one 4-hour candle close above this range of resistance, which is technically one confirmation signal for this breakout to the upside, which is bullish in the short term, although we still need to wait to see those inflation numbers that will be released very soon, because of course, as I said earlier in this video, they can potentially heavily affect markets depending on what those numbers are. But anyway, now getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this right here is the daily ETH to US dollar chart, and right now the price of ETH is successfully bouncing again from this important support level, which was sitting at approximately 1240. And of course, if you're looking at the daily Ethereum RSI, this is still holding above this ascending line of support, which is telling us that we're still due to see this relief from the larger bearish trend. And now if you zoom into the shorter term, this right here is the 4-hour ETH to US dollar chart, and technically speaking, at least at the time of recording this video, the price of ETH is still in this choppy sideways price range in between this support, which is sitting at approximately 1220 up to around 1240, where we also have some support, and of course this range of resistance coming into play in between around 1280 going up towards around 1320. So for the bulls out there, of course, we need to see a confirmed break above 1320 in order to begin the next leg to the upside. And for the bears out there, we need to see a confirmed break back below 1220 in order to see another leg to the downside, perhaps towards this next support level at around 1150 to 1160 approximately. And now if you're looking at the 4-hour Ethereum price oscillators, as of right now, these are still looking relatively neutral, so not overly bullish or overly bearish in the short term. But once again, as I mentioned earlier in the video, the new inflation numbers could heavily affect prices in the short term, so just keep that in mind. And now if you want to know how to maximize your profits in crypto no matter what prices are doing, then make sure to check out these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left of your screen shows you how to make money in crypto if the price is going either up or down, and the video in the bottom left of your screen shows you how to make money in crypto if the price is chopping around sideways. But anyway, that's everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.